Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we don't have a ton of Tesla news to go through, so I thought it was a good opportunity to follow up on a comment that I had made in an episode earlier this week on Volkswagen CEO Herbert Diess and his blog post about how to transform Volkswagen, in which he detailed how in April Volkswagen held a 3-day long meeting with 31 senior executives from Volkswagen, Audi, and Porsche for what they called Mission T, which was, okay, what do we have to do in the next 6 months to catch up with Tesla in terms of technology by 2024. Okay, so you've got this 3-day long meeting with 31 businessmen and women, and the opening question for that meeting is, how do we catch up in 4 years to this company that has been relentlessly proving to be a moving target? Remember, this was back in April, so this was even before Tesla's Battery Day, so pretty much everything they would have talked about at that time has probably now changed in what would have been less than 6 months. So I was highlighting that point. I do give Volkswagen a lot of credit for even acknowledging that there are areas that they need to catch up to Tesla in. That's a big first step. But I think Diess's post highlights the stark difference and the challenges that a company like VW is going to have versus a company like Tesla. I said, just look at this picture. You have these 30 executives, 30 plus, it looks like almost 40 by my count, and they're meeting for 3 days. And I said Elon Musk would be enraged if he walked into a meeting like that at Tesla. And somewhat to my surprise, a lot of people in the comment section were a little bit confused by that comment, ranging all the way to even strong disagreement. So today I wanted to add a little bit more context and expand on that point, hence the title, Elon Musk Hates Meetings. And just a quick note here, we will go through the movement of Tesla stock today afterwards. All right, so why would Elon Musk be enraged to come into a meeting like this? Well, I think a couple of reasons, but Elon has this long-standing history of not being super fond of meetings. We turn the clock back all the way to January 1st of 2009. There's a GQ story on Elon Musk, and in that story, they say, quote, meetings, he's fond of saying, are what happens when people aren't working, end quote. So of course, not all meetings are just inherently bad, some are necessary, but if you're thinking like Elon Musk, he is thinking in first principles always. There's a great quote in here from the Ashley Vance biography on Elon Musk about this that really, I think, it helps explain how that first principles approach applies to meetings. It reads, quote, by recruiting hundreds of bright, self-motivated people, SpaceX has maximized the power of the individual. One person putting in a 16-hour day ends up being much more effective than 2 people working 8-hour days together. The individual doesn't have to hold meetings, reach a consensus, or bring other people up to speed on a project. He just keeps working and working and working. The ideal SpaceX employee is someone like Steve Davis, the director of advanced projects at SpaceX. Quote, he's been working 16 hours a day, every day, for years, Brogan said. He gets more done than 11 people working together, end quote. So it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, take it to the extremes. That's one of the things I like to do when I think about concepts like this. Imagine you have one person working for 8 hours, what they could accomplish. And then let's say instead of that, okay, you have 8 people working for 1 hour apiece, or 16 people working for 30 minutes apiece. That one person, they're just going to be focused, head down, doing their job. These 8 people or these 16 people, they're going to need to coordinate, make sure everyone is working on the individual task that they need to work on, make sure there's no overlap between parties, make sure they're all working in the exact same direction for something that can be merged to eventually be as good as just one person working on something and coordinating it all internally within themselves. Taken to the extreme, you can start to see where the productivity losses can occur. And again, that's not to say that all situations are exactly identical. If you have different skill sets working on different problems and solving them in a sort of synergistic way, then of course having a team, having multiple people is more beneficial because then you start to reap gains from specialization versus generalization. It's just to illustrate a point that alignment comes at the cost of productivity. Therefore, the quicker alignment can be reached, the less loss in productivity. And I think this is one of the core strengths of Tesla because Elon Musk is such a strong leader with such a strong vision that very little productivity is lost throughout any of his organizations due to lack of alignment. Okay, all that being said, sometimes alignment needs to be reached, sometimes meetings need to be held, but when they are, they should be as productive as possible. So by 2009, we had heard that Elon is not a fan of meetings. Fast forward to 2018, there was a leaked email out of Tesla from Elon Musk to all employees where he addresses productivity and specifically meetings. He says, quote, by the way, here are a few productivity recommendations. Excessive meetings are the blight of big companies and almost always get worse over time. Please get rid of all large meetings unless you're certain they are providing value to the whole audience, in which case, keep them very short, end quote. Elon takes that seriously. There's a story from a former SpaceX employee that one of his friends at SpaceX in a meeting once got asked directly by Elon, "You haven't said anything, why are you in here?" Which is an idea that Elon expands on in this leaked 2018 email. He writes, quote, "Walk out of a meeting or drop off a call as soon as it is obvious you aren't adding value. It is not rude to leave, it is rude to make someone stay and waste their time." End quote. So keep meetings small, keep meetings short, and then again Elon here adds, quote, "Also, get rid of frequent meetings. Unless you are dealing with an extremely urgent matter, meeting frequency should drop rapidly once the urgent matter is resolved." End quote. These may seem like small things, but across large organizations with thousands and thousands of people, compounded by time, days, weeks, years, they add up. I think it can be well summarized by this Forbes article about how Elon Musk runs his famously efficient meetings, as they put it. Quote, "No matter how hard you work, someone else is working harder. This is a SpaceX expression that was shared at meetings to keep everyone moving." And a Tesla employee comments, quote, "If you believe that a task should take a year, then Elon wants it done in a week." End quote. Musk's intense level of expectations may not be comfortable, but all his employees know that he models the same dedication that he requires from his staff. End quote. So if we now go back to the Deese article and the Volkswagen photo, hopefully that adds some clarity on why I think if Elon Musk were to walk in on something like this at Tesla, he would be pretty enraged. Musk wants the minimum number of people for the shortest amount of time possible, and here VW is meeting with 30 plus executives for the course of 3 days. Making things even worse, this looks to be, a bunch of businessmen in suits. Most of them seem to be over 40. I'm seeing maybe 5 people in this photo that look like they might be under 40. I think they could use some youthful perspective, and to be frank, this problem is not a problem that's going to be solved by a bunch of businessmen sitting in a room talking about, business strategy. This is an engineering problem. This is a technology problem. A lot of times in disruptive periods of transformation, business people put up barriers. They say, we can't do that because of X, Y, and Z reason. We're going to hurt our profit or our market share, or this investor or that investor is not going to go for this, our board's not going to go for this. And that goes back to the original problem of not aligning, not being productive because of that lack of alignment. You've got 30 plus individuals here that probably sit somewhere on a spectrum from no support to electric vehicles to wanting to go all in on electric vehicles. All of them have different incentives in their contracts. A lot of them are going to be thinking in extremely short terms and how they can optimize for, maybe the final 2 years of their career. It's only going to be natural for them to try to influence things in the direction of short-term profitability, even if that comes at the expense of medium or longer-term success. So instead of one strong point of view at the top trying to set the mandate for the organization, you have these 30 different people trying to pull it in 30 different directions, and they're spending 3 days of their time doing that, not counting all the prep that all of these individuals would have to do for such a significant meeting like this. I've been in those situations. I know how that stuff goes. These managers are going to ask their teams to pull things together for them, specifically for this meeting, that may not even be addressed, and it may take weeks of prep work for these teams and probably tens, if not hundreds of sub-meetings across, 31 different teams to make sure that any of these individual business executives don't look dumb in front of the CEO or in front of their other business executive peers. This is culture. This is what people are talking about when they talk about a business's culture. Elon Musk has very actively fostered a culture of innovation within Tesla and within his other organizations, while legacy automakers over the years have fostered a culture of bureaucracy. And it's not just Musk that thinks this way. If you look at disruptive, innovative companies, Steve Jobs was sort of infamous for also being a little bit rude and kicking people out of meetings. Jeff Bezos, when it comes to team size and meeting size, has this so-called 2-pizza rule founded on the idea that the more people in a meeting, the less productive it becomes. So meetings should be kept small enough that 2 pizzas can feed the whole group. So naturally, we've got to run the math on this. I Googled how many pizzas for 30 people, and Google says 12 pizzas. So my point here is not to pick on Volkswagen. They're in a really tough spot. Deese is trying to do what I said, where you have a really strong leader at the top with a strong point of view that permeates throughout the organization. But as Deese says, Volkswagen is a tanker. They have hundreds of thousands of employees. It takes a lot to turn that around. All right, let's move on. I do want to cover the stock here quickly, and then we do have a couple other pieces of news. Tesla today for the second day in a row, finishing at an all-time high close. Today ending the day at $599.04, up about 1% on the day. That compared to the NASDAQ up 0.7%. The markets overall and Tesla rose in the last few minutes of trading, so that closing price was actually Tesla's high of the day. Trading volume was very low today. This is the lowest it's been since the S&P announcement was made. About 28.1 million shares trading hands today. That's 43% to the last year's average. Over the 253 trading days in the last year, this ranks 211th, so only in the 17th percentile for volume. What does that mean? Well, your guess is as good as mine, but it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks here. As far as Tesla news, as I said, not really a whole lot to report. I think probably the biggest headline of today is really just a headline. This is from Benzinga. There's not even an article with it. They write, quote, Tesla CEO Elon Musk tells friends he's planning to move to Texas, end quote. So of course we've heard about Tesla in Texas, Elon in Texas in the past when Fremont was shut down for coronavirus situation concerns. Musk had alluded to the fact that maybe he would move Tesla's headquarters outside of California to Texas. That talk has since cooled off. It's not something I expect to happen in the next few years. But yeah, with Giga Texas going up, that's obviously a pretty critical part of Tesla's future. The faster that happens, the better Tesla's going to perform. The closer that Elon is to that, probably the better. And of course, SpaceX has a lot of operations going on in Texas too. At the end of the day though, I do think it's pretty inconsequential. Regardless of where Elon calls home, he's going to end up spending a lot of time in Fremont, in LA, in Austin, in Shanghai, in Berlin, and wherever else Tesla ends up building next. Alright, last thing here is a quick update on a story that we had talked about a week or two ago about General Motors offering a buyout option for Cadillac dealers if those dealers no longer wished to carry the brand and make necessary investments for electric vehicles. GM had reportedly been offering these individual dealerships between $300,000 all the way up to $1 million or more a piece. And the Wall Street Journal is now reporting that about 17% of the 880 Cadillac dealerships in the United States have agreed to take that buyout offer. So 17% would be about 150 Cadillac dealerships. If we assume on average that was about a $500,000 buyout, that would be $75 million of cost here for GM to have fewer sales locations. And again, that's just for the Cadillac brand. So a pretty interesting situation there, and I think it highlights the potential burden that these franchise dealerships could represent for legacy automakers. So that is where we will wrap it up for today and for the week. As always, huge thank you for listening. Hope everybody has an awesome weekend. Make sure you're subscribed. Don't forget to sign up for notifications as well. You can also find me in the meantime on Twitter @Tesla Podcast. I'll talk to you again on Monday for the December 7th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.